He auditioned for Saturday Night Live and was rejected. Years later, he would become one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors. But before that happened, the joke was on him. Toronto, 1970s. Jim Carrey was 15 when his father lost his accounting job. The family's comfortable life collapsed. They worked nights as janitors and security guards at a tire rim factory. Then they lost their home and lived for a time in a Volkswagen van. At 16, Jim left school. He worked to help support the family, but comedy was still pulling him forward. At 15, he had already started performing in Toronto clubs. By 17, he was getting regular paid work. Then he made the decision that could have made everything worse. He left Canada. In 1981, at 19, Carrey moved to Los Angeles with about $1,000 in savings. The plan was simple: become a star. The reality was brutal. He performed in clubs, auditioned for television, and heard no repeatedly. He even auditioned for Saturday Night Live for the 1980-81 season and was not selected. Then another door opened, in living color. In 1990, Carrey joined the cast. His impressions and physical performances made him one of the show's standout performers. Hollywood finally noticed. But getting noticed was not the same as becoming a star. Then came 1994. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective was released. The film cost about $15 million and earned more than $100 million in the United States and Canada. Then The Mask, then Dumb and Dumber, 3 major films in 1 year. It looked like the struggle was over. Then Hollywood raised the stakes. In 1996, Carrey received a reported $20 million salary for The Cable Guy, an extraordinary figure for a comedy actor at the time. Now failure meant something different. He was no longer the unknown comedian trying to get inside. He was the star everyone expected to succeed, and one film could change how the industry saw him. So he made a dangerous move. He stopped trying to prove he was only funny. In 1998, he played Truman Burbank in The Truman Show. The audience expected another wild comedy. Instead, they watched a man discover that his entire life was an artificial television set. The performance worked. Carrey won the Golden Globe for Best Actor. Then he went even further. In 1999, he played Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. It was nothing like Ace Ventura. Again, he won the Golden Globe for Best Actor. The comedian who had once struggled to convince Hollywood that he belonged was now being rewarded for dramatic performances. But the final twist was quieter. The success did not erase the years before it. The van was real. The factory was real. The rejection was real. And the lesson hidden inside those years was not that failure eventually disappears. It was that the same desperation that forced a teenager to leave school and chase comedy also created the persistence that kept him auditioning when Hollywood had already said no. The first joke was that nobody wanted to hire him. The final joke was that Hollywood eventually had to build an entire career around the man it had once overlooked. But there was a crack in the perfect story. The Cable Guy earned money, but its reception was mixed. And the image of the unstoppable comedy star began to change. The bigger problem was that Carrey had already reached the top of one mountain. If he stayed there, every new role would be compared with the same 3 movies that had made him famous. So he took another risk. He accepted roles that could make audiences uncomfortable. He moved between comedy and drama instead of repeating the formula that had made him rich. In 2000, he starred in Me, Myself, and Irene. Later that year, he played the Grinch in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, spending hours in heavy makeup to become a character almost unrecognizable beneath the costume. Then came Bruce Almighty in 2003. The film became a major commercial success, but Carrey still refused to stay inside one category. In 2004, he starred in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a strange science fiction drama about a man trying to erase a relationship from his memory. It was almost the opposite of the loud physical comedy that had made him famous. That pattern had started decades earlier, when a teenager used impressions to make his family laugh during a period of poverty. At first, comedy was survival. Then it became a job, then fame, then a trap, and finally, a tool he could use without being trapped by it. The boy who once slept in a van had eventually reached a point where money was no longer the problem. The problem was whether success would decide what he was allowed to become next. He had already survived poverty. He had survived rejection. He had survived becoming famous. The hardest part was proving that the person who made millions of people laugh could still change without losing them. That is why his story is not simply about becoming successful. It is about refusing to let the version of you that finally gets accepted become the version you are forced to remain. The final contrast is almost cruel. He spent his childhood watching his father lose a secure career. Years later, Jim Carrey would become the man who could choose whether to work, what to play, and which direction to take. The security his family lost became the freedom he spent decades building.